Hi and good morning. Welcome to Funky Rainbow. Apologies for the very, very delayed start. We are working with quarter our team size today. There's a pop up at a school in Bangalore. Muttama and my colleague Netra are there. Bharti is at our office. Sham's down with chicken pox. And I really, really, it's been a very, very delayed start. My apologies. But I truly hope Love's Labor is not lost because of this delay. We are here this morning to celebrate Shuddh Desi romances. Now, how should the romances are? You have to pick up the books to find out. But in a run up to Valentine's Day this morning, Valentine's Day on the 14th, we thought we would do a show on Shuddh Desi romances for teens, tweens, and for everyone else, because as we all know, everybody loves a love story. Shruti Sri Raghunath, such a delight to see you here this morning. Tarar Veera Raghavan, utterly, utterly delighted. And that wonderfully romantic hero in the world of Indian children's books, Ramendra Kumar. What a pleasure to see you here this morning as well. Thank you. Thank you for being there, for cheering us on, for making sure that what we love the most of all, Indian children's books and Indian young adult books, thank you for ensuring that we are able to do this, to promote this, and to to really, I think this is our love story to all of you. Muttama, such a pleasure to see you from Samhita. In between billing and recommending and everything, to say hello from Samhita Academy. So I started by saying that we have a very, very small team up here today. I mean, I know Netra and you are at Samhita, Sham's down with chickenpox, Bharti is at our office, and are well. So, but really, Love's Labor is not lost. We'll get started forthwith with recommendations on the theme, on proper romances. These are love stories. These are not stories of children loving pets, parents loving children, aunts and nieces and nephews. These are proper stories of romance, proper being quote unquote proper romances. It's lovely that in the Indian children's context, we do have wonderful stories of romance for young readers, and because it's an emotion, it's one of the most powerful emotions in the world. And I really think that we absolutely need to give our young readers lots of romances to read, so that A, they build empathy. Two, they're able to navigate their lives and relationships a lot better than perhaps we all did when we were growing up. So I'm going to start off because we're so late and we've got a fantastic guest, who will join us a little later in the show. I just love the epithet that she coined for herself, or maybe her publishers did. Andalib Wajid, the Desi diva of romance, is going to join us later in the show to talk about Ishq Vishk, Pyar Vyar, and everything else in between. So till Andalib comes in, and I know we'll have to cut short some of our recommendations, but they're all up on our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Click on the tab that says Book Buzzaar Season 5 and go straight to the romance section, which is obviously the most exciting one of them all. Shruti, I know you're going to be delighted with this first recommendation. And I don't know whether you managed to get the book last time, but if not, we have it in stock this time. This beautiful book by Meli Gobai, The Legend of the Orange Princess. It's a folk tale retold by Meli Gobai, the wonderful artist Meli Gobai, also illustrated by him. And the illustrations in the book, I mean, on this beautiful love story, so artistically illustrated, by Meli Gobai. Now, what is the story? It is set in the kingdom of Chandpur. What a perfect setting, the moonlight, really, right? And there is a princess who's born to the king of Chandpur, who will is in the shape of an orange in the day, but by night, when the orange is unpeeled, when it sort of peels itself or unpeels itself, out emerges this beautiful maiden, this beautiful princess. Now, one of these nights, the handsome young prince, and I mean, I just love these princess settings for our love stories. King Prithvi of Bund, happens to see this Narangi princess. And the Narangi princess, and he falls in love with her, of course, the beauteous Narangi princess. Now, everything's hunky dory in this love story, except, she has to step back into the orange every, before it becomes dawn. And she doesn't do that one night. What happens to the love story? What happens to the princess? Is she going to remain an orange forever? Well, what is the power of true love? You just have to read this beautiful book. And I can see Shruti saying, I got it. Thanks for remembering. I love the stories and the illustrations. I really mean it. I mean, there's just something so beautiful about these illustrations. Quite, in a traditional sort of way, evoking an era gone by and evoking a lot of love. Of course, Meli Gobai evoking a lot of love for his own characters. This is a folk tale retold, and it is a romance. I mean, we've tried, like I said, to pick books that are only romances, and not of the princess for her parents, or not of the princess for her kingdom. I mean, all that is part and parcel of the story, but otherwise it's the love story of the Narangi princess and King Prithvi of Bund. Beautiful love story. We'd recommend it. I mean, we'd recommend it for anyone who's in love with love, really. But it's just an utterly delightful picture book, beautifully illustrated, brought out by Speaking Tiger. We'd say, 5 plus 6 plus year olds, you can see the text in the pages. Well, you can read it out to your kids. I mean, and you can enjoy it yourself. Now, love, of course, is a many splendored thing, and it's not just one shade that exists. So we have a fantastic book. I mean, from the time Tara has brought out this set of books, and there's Antigone, there's Euripides, I'm sorry, there's Sophocles, and there is Hippolytus, which is the one that I'm going to recommend today, which is a very, very different kind of love. It's a love that's completely gone wrong. Because in this story, which is, a Greek, retelling of a Greek tale, and you've got to see beautifully produced by Tara in handmade paper and with exquisite illustrations, with just the most exquisite illustrations. Now, Hippolytus, the protagonist of the book, spurns Aphrodite. Aphrodite, the goddess of love. She is really interested in Hippolytus, but he is absolutely not interested in her at all. Instead, he showers all his attention to Artemis, who's the goddess of chastity. And Aphrodite is just so mad. I mean, she has just decided that because she's been spurned by Hippolytus, she's going to take revenge on him. And what happens in the course of that revenge? I mean, there are events that involve Hippolytus, there are events that involve his stepmother, there are events that, involve Phaedra, another character in the story. And it is, with full of plot twists, misunderstandings, but entirely ultimately about, and of course, it's a Greek tragedy. So, it has a denouement, which is, quite sad. And, how the story sort of spirals towards that end, unrequited love, the things that it can make people do. I mean, it is just Euripides. I mean, it's a Greek play, which, a lot of, I mean, I'm sure students of literature have had to read, Antigone and Hippolytus, but in this one, presented for young readers in this fantastic, handmade paper format, really a fantastic book of, mortal sorrow, or when love absolutely goes wrong. Tara, as always, and if I'm not mistaken, these were inspired from paintings that exist, the illustrations, over here by Indrapramit Roy, were inspired by paintings that are up in the Metropolitan Museum of New York. Fabulous story of a love absolutely gone wrong. Like I said, it's a many splendored thing, and there are different shades of love. All of us are aware of it, really, right? And this one, the Hippolytus' story, a tragic tale, but like the best Greek tragedies, so many life lessons tucked within its pages. And this one, I would say, 7, 8+ year olds and adults of all ages, really, who will who will recognize the emotions that are presented in the story. My next recommendation for you and for our friends on Instagram, did they just join in, or did they, were they up from the time that we started the show? I thought you just switched on. So okay, they've. Oh, okay, okay, all right. For my friends on Instagram, I think it got disconnected a bit. We are hosting a show of books on should they see romance books, basically in a run up to Valentine's Day on the 14th of February, and we're recommending Indian children's books, for young readers, for tweens, and for teens, mostly for tweens and teens. I know often people have written to us saying, hey, you focus a lot on picture books for younger readers. This time, clearly, with the exception of The Legend of the Orange Princess and Hippolytus, the rest of the recommendations are all for tweens and teens. Ritvika Roy, such a pleasure to see you. Euripides Media is another such. Has Tara brought out that one too? No, I'm afraid not. They have Antigone, they have Hippolytus, they have Oedipus Rex, and one more, Bacchae. They have those 4 books, that they did, brought out in this fantastic handmade paper format, and the illustrations in these rich tones of red and black, which just bring the Greek tragedies alive. Not media, not media, but the Greek tragedies, like I said, just full of life lessons and love lessons for all of us, for readers of all ages. We move into our next recommendation, which is Tales of Love and Adventure by Devika Rangachari, a wonderful writer who's done fantastic works of historical fiction. I mean, there's the Queen series, Queen of Fire, Queen of Ice, Queen of Earth. There's, her Songs of Freedom book, The Train to Tangier. And this one, an older book from Scholastic called Tales of Love and Adventure, where Devika, tells us stories of historical romances. And somehow I think that setting of history and romance is just perfect. At least it is for me. I love reading historical romances. Now, in this one, which is a collection of stories, and methinks Tales of Love and Adventure should have just been Tales of Love, and maybe the adventure was put in because parents may just, or teachers and librarians may be like, well, we need something more than just Tales of Love, because these are beautiful stories of love from history. There's the story of Samyukta and Prithviraj. Now, Samyukta's father detests Prithviraj. Now, can the two lovers get married? That's one of the stories. What about Savitri and Satyavan? I mean, what happens? Can Savitri liberate Satyavan from that curse that Yama has, has bestowed on Satyavan? That is an eternal love story as well. And what about Malti and Madhava, who flout the king's wishes to be with each other? It's really a fine collection of love stories from across the country, set in different parts of the country. It's Bengal. There's a story from Bengal. There's a story from Tamil Nadu. There's a story from Rajasthan. There's a story, from even from Andhra Pradesh, Kashmir. All beautiful love stories embedded in history. I mean, and giving us a sense of those historical periods, but also telling beautiful love stories set in various historical periods. Devika Rangachari is a fine writer, and you can see, we would say this one certainly 11 plus, maybe 10 plus, 11 plus, depending on what age, I mean, what reading level your child has. So that's one of our recommendations. And like I said, historical romances, another one, and which is possibly, and I think one of the earliest ones in the Indian children's context, is this wonderful book published by Red Turtle called Starcurst. It's Nandini Bajpayee's book. And I mean, I think I may have read it like maybe 10 years ago, possibly, or 12 years ago, even. I'm not sure. But I was so astounded by this historical love story that is, set, which is set in Ujjain of very very many decades ago, essentially. And it tells the story of Leelavati, a lovely romantic story of Leelavati, who believes she is born under a certain alignment of stars that will not allow her to marry. She is the daughter of Bhaskaracharya of Ujjain. He is the most famous astronomer and mathematician of the times. And obviously, he's plotted, her star alignments at her birth. And the alignments say, well, Leelavati is not going to wed. But life always makes other plans while you're plotting maps, and while you're plotting your destiny through the stars. She meets her childhood playmate and friend after many 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 years, and that's Rahul Nagar Seth. And of course, the sparks fly. Now, what happens are these star cursed? I mean, Rahul Nagar set too has, a star alignment, which is not saying that he's not going to marry, but he's probably not destined to be the king. Now, what happens to these star cursed lovers? How do they? Do they get together? Are they going to be partners for life? It's a fantastic book. I mean, it's a fantastic book in so many levels. One, it's a fabulous romance to read. Nandini Bajpayee recreates the flavor, the sights and sounds of Ujjain of many many eras gone past so wonderfully. And there's also the story of a girl who decides that she is going to rewrite her destiny. And I think, such powerful messages, sent through a fabulous love story. I mean, I really have to say that it's easily one of the nicest ones in the Indian context. I recommend all adults read it. Of course, I recommend that tweens and teens read it. It's a should desi romance in every sense of the word, really. And yeah, so Starcurst is one of those books of romance that we highly recommend at Funky Rainbow. Of course, I can't be without recommending books of the guest who's going to join us later in the show at 12 noon. We're going to be joined, by the Desi diva of romance, Andalib Wajid, who's going to chat with us about, what makes romance the one of the most popular genres in the world, and why is it that everybody, irrespective of what age they are, loves a love story? So one of the Andalib's books that we love, and we'd say, again, 11 plus, maybe 12 plus year olds, is this fantastic title called Asmara's Summer. I mean, Andalib's books for tweens and teens are not just entirely romances. They're growing up stories. But when tweens and teens are growing up, there's just so much, angst and worry about relationships. Now, in this book, of course, Asmara has to unexpectedly come to Tannery Road in Bangalore. And that's, one of the things that we love about the book. She has to come to live with her grandparents in Tannery Road in Bangalore. And the way Andalib recreates Tannery Road. I mean, I grew up in Bangalore, and, we've travel. I mean, I used to have friends who lived, in Cooktown on Tannery Road. And, just reading, those her descriptions of the avenues of Tannery Road, brought back so many memories from the past for me. Now, Asmara's grandparents live on Tannery Road, and, she's going to have to spend a month with them. And she's like, oh God, they don't even have internet. I mean, what's happened to, I mean, my holiday entirely ruined because I've got to go back and stay with my fuddy duddy grandparents. But, once she gets there and once she figures that, well, I have no choice, I'm going to have to be here, she makes friends with some of the other girls in the neighborhood. And her own, and her neighbor, the one who's right next door, has a hot brother. Cool. What does a teenager who who's moved to the grandparents' home at summer, what else do you need? I mean, there's a best friend, there's a hot guy, there's lots of crushes, there's lots of growing up angst. Yeah, and this is one thing that we do want to tell parents, we do want to tell teachers and librarians. These are, such good books to, that show you, what it is to navigate your life. Because like books for any other for any other emotion, this one too, right? I mean, these books too help you chart your life better, really. I mean, I think books of romance, they help build empathy, certainly. But they also, I think, maybe you put yourself in a person's shoes. Maybe you are able to, as adults, we're able to converse better with our children, with teens and, tweens, who generally by a certain point in time do not talk about their own friends, do not talk about special people in their lives, but via characters in books that they connect with. It's such a great way to really find out what's going on in their heads, what's going on in their hearts, and what's going on in their lives. And I believe, and we say this to many parents and to teachers: read books of romance with young readers. I mean, it's beautiful for you to see life through their eyes, and there's every chance that they'll get talking to you if you do. And Andalib's book Asmara's Summer is one such conversation starter. In fact, you can see, the lovely cover. It has all Asmara's preoccupations that summer. Hottie next door. So you can see the hottie next door. There's a new best friend forever, who's the hottie's sister, of course. And there is a nosy nanny. There's an annoying auntie. And of course, Asmara is a selfie queen. I mean, really, give these books to your tweens and teens. They will stop thinking that their parents are terribly fuddy duddy if you do hand over these ones to them. I'm just going to keep a watch on the time. We have quite a few books to recommend, but I'll probably stick to one or two. The next one that I'm going to recommend is a story that Sham and I have had the pleasure of listening to from the author himself when we were actually working on a magazine that focused, and that had a special focus on cars. Shruti, you're saying this one is surely going to my tween. That's what we call a cool mom, really. I mean, these are Shuddh Desi romances, folks. Nothing inappropriate in terms of content, just fabulous, love stories that show you, how different people respond and react in different in situations, and how the path of love ain't the easiest thing to navigate in the world. And it's better that we grow up armed with that wisdom, really, so that our paths get easier to navigate. I'm delighted, Shruti. Maybe that one for you, and maybe that one for your daughter, and Starcurst for you, because I can well imagine you just enjoying Starcurst, which means when your daughter is like just a couple of years older, you can certainly give it to her. Now, coming back to the next book that I was going to recommend, we met with author Ranjit Lal when we were working on an issue that focused on 100 years of cars and automobiles, and he is an automobile expert. He has the most priceless collection of dinky cars I've ever seen. And I mean, talks about brakes and engines and tires, and just about anything to do with cars, with such fantastic knowledge that when we were putting together that issue, we felt he had to be a guest editor. We spent many days with him, at which point he told us in bits and pieces about his life story. Now, when this book came out early this year, not early this year, early last year, I think, it was easy for us to see that a part of it had been inspired by Ranjit's own life. This is What Lies Between Two Hearts by Ranjit Lal. And I know that Ranjit has so many fans amongst, readers that are 12, 13 plus. I mean, I know Muttama's daughter Tamanna is a huge fan of Ranjit Lal's, and there's every reason for it. I mean, his stories, his characters, the settings, they're so realistic, they're so relevant to contemporary young people. And What Lies Between Two Hearts, about this young boy called Rajat Sodhi, who has a defective heart, who's born with a defective heart. And so he has to give up many things in his life. He cannot go to school. He has to, be homeschooled. And life gets quite frustrating when he has to navigate his teenage years. Now, what happens to Rajat Story? I mean, he fills his life, of course, Rajat Sodhi fills his life with cars. He fills his life with, I mean, as in books of cars. He, fills his life with learning how to cook. He loves nature. He loves, bird watching. And that's how, he combats the loneliness of going to school, of doing schooling from home because of his medical condition. I mean, he loves books, he loves music, he loves to play the guitar. Now, one fine day, he hasn't really had too many friends. But one fine day, in the place that he lives, in the colony that he lives, enter two twins, Jasmeeta and Jamila. And guess what happens to Rajat Sodhi? He falls in love with both of them. I mean, it is just, they are very, very good friends. The twins and Rajat become very good friends. And eventually and slowly, he finds that he is in love with both of them. The story comes to a point where he's going to have a critical surgery for his heart. How does Rajat navigate this? How do the girls, respond to it? And what a heartfully written story this is. And we know in part, some parts of it, at least the part of being born with a defective heart, the part of not being able to go to school and college entirely because of this medical condition, the part about loving cars, they all come from Ranjit's own life. This is a beautiful book for people who very inclusive, because differently abled characters are part of it, including Rajat Sodhi himself. It's really a fine book of romance, and we would certainly recommend it for 12, 13 plus year olds. Again, I say the many shades of love in one book. Ritvika Roy, you're saying Himanjali Shankar explores queer love so sensitively in Talking of Muskan. It's up in our collection. In fact, Payal Dhar's Slightly Burnt as well. I mean, navigates in part, the friendship between three people when there's an announcement made about two of them being queer. The thing is, these wonderful love stories, doesn't matter, irrespective of genders, they are all up in our collection. But we really need a lot more, like you say, sensitively written stories. In fact, even Himanjali's other book, The Lies We Tell, a fantastic book that begins with a love story. I mean, although it's a book that plumbs the depths of despair, that explores the depths of despair when the protagonist of the book is jilted by his girlfriend, who decides to fall in love with his best friend. What does that do to a teenager? It's just fantastic how she explores the nuances of despair, depression, and all of that has been triggered off by a relationship that goes wrong. Yes, but certainly needing a lot more YA books, not just on queer love, on just love, on navigating relationships, on growing up. Certainly we need quite a lot of more books in that category. Ranjit Lal, certainly for 12, 13 plus year olds. I'm just keeping a watch on the time. Let me because young readers love graphic novels, I'm going to again, my temptation to read books of romance set in historical contexts, I think absolutely revealing itself in this bazaar, because the one that I want to recommend now is this fantastic graphic novel which we have recommended earlier in other shows, Chotu, a tale of love set against the partition of India. Beautiful, graphic novel. You can see pretty much this is written by Varud Gupta and Ayushi Rastogi. A fantastic story about a guy called Chotu who makes and sells tea in Chandni Chowk, and who falls in love just at the time that India is being partitioned. I mean, and the juxtaposition of the horror of the partition and the beauty of the romance between Chotu and his girlfriend, sort of bringing alive this kind of dichotomy that exists in everyday life, really, doesn't it? I mean, you are perhaps experiencing some of the most beautiful things while, set against the backdrop of larger historical things or political events that happen. And I think that combination really makes for the best stories, when the personal is superimposed against the political, because ultimately we're all political beings, and your story playing out in the context of a larger historical context, or even a contemporary political context, makes for the best kind of reading ever. And young readers love the graphic format. We know every time we go to schools, there's readers who will ask us for graphic novels. So this one, at once a romance, but at once also some lessons from history. So this is a great book of love as well. I have to say that often when we are in schools, just as soon as teachers or maybe parents or librarians are out of earshot, we'll have young people come and ask us. They really do, saying, "Ma'am, can you recommend a good romantic book for me?" And we are always happy to take out books and hand it over to them. There's no need to be squeamish. I mean, it is the most glorious emotion ever. Every single one of us has experienced it in some way or the other. Why do we get squeamish about it when it comes to handing over something to our young people who are just getting ready to navigate their lives? I mean, we urge parents, we urge teachers, we urge librarians, and all the books that we're recommending here. And there's several up in our on our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Click on the tab that says Book Bazaar, go to season 5 and to the segment that is called Romance. All the books under that, and there's hardly 8-10 that we're able to recommend in the course of the show, but there's at least 50 of them up there. All of them are, like I said, great romances to read. You can just blindly recommend them. I mean, the age levels put up on every single book, so check it out. In fact, we say this: read it first, see if you enjoyed it, and then, give it to the young reader in your life. But don't shy away from doing it. Don't think that, don't think that, the shades of love are too complex for young people to understand or navigate. Or, don't think that these are provocative stories that will, that will encourage young people to do different things. That's far from the truth. Young readers, much like older readers, I mean, many of us love reading. I mean, I would dip into a love story any day, any day, because sometimes, I mean, and especially if it's a happily ever after, or a light-hearted kind of romance, it's got such a feel good factor about it. Let your children experience that as well. I'm not saying that all love stories are happily ever after love stories, but everyone loves a love story, and that includes, young readers as well. So don't shy away. Feel free to call us, feel free to write to us, to get recommendations. And the best way to see whether it works or not is to read it yourself. Ritvika, you're saying, I'm also thinking of how Nivedita Subramaniam and Soumya Rajendran incorporate young love and crushes in the Mile books. Absolutely. Mile writer who writes a diary, really, right? And how can you grow up without crushes? Which one of us remembers growing up without, crushes? You could be crushing on anyone. I remember the day Mahendra Singh Dhoni stepped into the Indian cricket team. I was like, I've just got to find a way to meet Mahendra Singh Dhoni. And he was, I mean, I was way, way older than, any teen or tween at that point in time. In fact, maybe that's the recommendation that I should close with, which is a book that I so thoroughly enjoyed when I was reading it, Anuja Chauhan's The Zoya Factor. What a great book. It brings together everything that I love about love stories. There's cricket in the book, which is one of my favorite sports, and there is a romance between Zoya, who has been taken along with the cricket team because they believe she's their lucky mascot. Every time she's sitting in at a match, the Indian team's just winning all the matches so easily. And she's getting really irritated about this terrible mascot position that she has. But the new captain of the team, who I know Anuja Chauhan has modeled upon Mahendra Singh Dhoni, or at least in my head, with every line that I read of Anuja Chauhan's book, in my head, I could only conjure images of Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Now, he believes that what's winning them the matches is his captaincy, and certainly not some good luck mascot. So, of course, there's a lot of conflict there, but there's also love that surely but slowly and charmingly makes its way into the book and into the lives of the protagonists. I mean, Zoya Factor must read for mums and dads and aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas. One of India's early, kind of love stories. We'd say 16 plus, for kids in 11th and 12th grade can certainly read it. A should desi romance, if ever, a clean should desi romance, if ever there was one. So, Ritvika, you're right. I mean, you're saying that Soumya and Nivedita talk about crushes in the Mile books because it is treated as such a normal part of growing up, and it should be, and we must really encourage our children to deal with these feelings as well. I know it's almost time. We had a clutch of other books to recommend on the theme. Like I say, lots of good books of romance for teens and tweens, and we urge you all to explore those ones. We urge you to look through the collection and buy these books, just so that everybody enjoys. Everybody enjoys reading a good romance, and your kids need not be excluded from that ever, need not be excluded from it ever at all. So let me, quickly say hello to our guest of the day. I want to check whether she's up online. So we'll just say hello and then connect on Instagram as well. Say hello to Andalib and then connect on Instagram to Instagram's hung again, is it? Yeah, okay. We're just waiting for Andalib to come. You haven't brought her up on Be Live, I think, isn't it? Okay, we can restart the stream. Just give us 2 minutes while you reflect upon, um, yeah, love, love of long ago, perhaps. I mean, we actually have a couple of wonderful Ruskin-born books as well, where he talks about his crushes, and talks about falling in love. And they are such charming books, really, right? So, reflect about it, think about it, like, that giddy, heady feeling of teenage love, more mature and more self-assured, relationships that have come into your life later. It is Valentine's Day, it's coming up soon. So think about it, because there's no feeling quite like love, really. So, and if you'd like to share some of your experiences with us, we would be utterly and absolutely delighted to hear these stories, because it just gives us that happy wala feeling, to hear love stories. Are you sending out an invitation to Andalib, and can we have her up live on this stream as well? Sorry, just a little slow with everything. Sham and Anam doing it despite Sham having chicken pox, you know. Uh, but we will connect with her very, very soon. There she is. Hi, Andalib.
Hello.
Okay, hang on a second. I
Yeah.
can't hear you well, Andalib. I'm just going to
Okay.
adjust my speaker settings and get you to say hello again. Hold on a second. Can you just say hello again, Andalib?
Hello.
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
hearing her very faintly, Sham. Is it okay? On my laptop? Yeah, hang on just 1 second. Yeah, okay. Hi, Andalib. Sorry, I'm going to ask you to say hello again.
It's okay. Hello.
Is it getting diffused through that thing, Sham? It's absolutely, the volume is at the max. Okay. Uh, Andalip, could I request you to? I know the rest of the audience is able to hear you really well. Can I request you to log into the Be Live thing again, if you
I'll do
don't
that.
mind?
Yeah, yeah.
It's echoing in yours as well. That doesn't happen, right? Usually I'm able to hear her. Sorry, folks, just a glitch here, and just getting Andalib to rejoin, because if I can't hear her, then it's going to be hard to chat. One-sided love ho jayega, Andalib.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sort of faintly. I don't know, but maybe we should. My speaker's on full. I put it on. Sorry, one second. Over here, laptop. Uh, it's actually connecting to some headphones. Okay, all right, yeah.
Do you have a wireless headphone?
Yeah, absolutely. Done. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, like I said, didn't want it to be a one-sided wala love, really, like, right? But ladies and gentlemen, want you to put your hands together. We want to send you the Instagram invite as well, Andalib.
Yeah.
Have you received it?
No, the actual thing ended, For some
Oh,
reason,
the
it's
stream
showing the
ended.
live video
So
ended.
that's
So
right. You know what? There was
maybe,
a small glitch here, but we've sent you an invitation again now. Can you just accept, so that people on Instagram as well
yeah.
can? Do you need to send it again?
Yeah, it's not showing up.
Hang on.
Um,
It's a new live stream that's
okay.
we've started.
Yeah. Yeah. I've joined now.
Yeah. Just hang on a second. We'll see if you've come live on Instagram. Yeah. No. Can you see us,
I can see
Andali?
you. I've sent a request also. This takes a little bit of time.
Okay. So
Uh,
let's just give it that 1 minute where
yeah.
she can see us.
Now, I've also sent a request.
It's the other way around. We are anyway live, so we are sending a request
Okay,
to the
Andali, you have to accept a request that we send. I think it doesn't
Okay.
work ulta.
Okay.
Just hang on a sec.
Yeah.
Sorry for our
No. Yeah, yeah.
viewers.
The viewers.
Just reminisce about the lovely love stories in your life.
I've got.
Yeah,
Oh God, I keep doing this. Yes.
super.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, many of you watching, I want to say here we have the Desi diva of romance joining us. I love that.
Thank you, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I've seen so many of these bazaars, and never thought that I'd join during, for romance. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm really happy, and loved. I love the recommendations. There were so many. I knew Starkers, and I didn't know about Ranjit's new book. Definitely sounds interesting. I'd love to pick it up. Okay. I can't hear Vidya. Vidya, I can't hear you. You've disappeared from the V Live, please. Should I join again? Should I leave the V Live thing and join again? Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Now
there.
you're back.
Sorry, Andalib. I don't
Good,
know
good.
what happened.
Yeah.
It's as troublesome as love is. I think really like right. But I liked what you said. I liked what you said that you never thought you would feature in a bazaar of books on romance. I'm like, what else would I feature you in? Really, like right.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. And again, for our friends on Instagram and watching us on Facebook and YouTube, Andalib's got 40 novels under her belt written in the last 14 years. That's got to make her one of the most prolific writers in the Indian children's context. And many of these books for tweens and teens, and with dollops of romance in her books. We also know that we have much to celebrate because three of her books, a part of a series called Jasmine Villa. This one we would recommend for 17 plus year olds, 16, 17 plus year olds. They're actually written for adults. They just came out, they just came to us yesterday, or rather the day before yesterday, and I'm holding up the covers of Jasmine Villa. Sham, if you can put them up on screen. Fabulous books, actually. One Way to Love, book one. Loving You Twice, such clever titles, and Three Times Lucky, which is the third book in the series. For all you mommies and researchers and friends watching there, and I do know even and writer friends who are watching, here are three titles that will make your Valentine's Day just perfect. So a big hand out to you, Andalib, for the Jasmine Villa series, which are not the only love stories that you've written. So really, that's what made me wonder, what other kind of bazaar would I feature you in, actually, right?
Yeah.
So my first question was actually connected to this. I mean, all the world loves a love story, and yours, has dollops of romance in them. Your books for tweens and teens, they do have a lot of romance, like whether it's Asmara in Asmara Summer, which we recommended in the course of our recommendations today. There's Farida in All Drama No Queen, and there are the Hassan sisters in the Jasmine Villa series as well. Tell us why you love so much and why you write about it.
So, I think growing up, I've always enjoyed reading love stories myself.
Hmm.
Books weren't that accessible to us when we were growing up. Today, I'm very happy to be an adult in this world so that, I can buy books, whatever I want, instead of waiting for my parents to buy them for me. And also, there's so much more accessible now. So a book which had a hint of a romance would always be something that you would go back to and read and reread, and uh, even the slightest hint of romance, I think it's just human nature. You just feel, you like the way it makes you feel. You see the connection between two people playing out, and so many aspects of the entire thing, the chemistry, the unfolding of emotions,
Absolutely.
and trying to decode what someone else means to you, what you mean to them. It a very cynical part of me used to laugh at all this, as a I used to find it very ridiculous. But then I think as I started reading more books, see, in my when I was growing up in college and all that, we hardly had any Indian writers writing
Absolutely.
popular fiction. We didn't have that.
Absolutely.
So whatever we grew up reading, a lot of Mills and Boons, and Nora
Georgia
Roberts,
Tears.
and
Yeah.
all those typical romances which would be passed from one girl to the other. Like, I would read it, and my friend would read it, and whoever had borrowed it from the library would finally return it. So it was all a matter of access back then. And I think, if you as I turned to writing, I was
Hmm.
very hesitant. So my very first novel, Kite Strings,
Hmm.
which was published 14 years ago,
Hmm.
it had this element of romance,
Hmm.
which kind of started off on a terrace with these two teenagers. So this guy is flying a kite, and this girl is standing on her terrace, and she is not from that place. So I
Hmm.
set it in my hometown, Vellore,
Velour.
and she is watching, she's looking, and for her it's like a very exotic experience, looking at all these people flying kites in the evening. And there's this one guy who's flying the kite, and his kite manages to cut away her cousin's kite,
Yeah.
and that her cousin gets irritated, and he walks off in anger. And then this girl finds that other boy very irritating, so she throws her slippers at him. So, and then over the years, they keep meeting over there. And for me, writing that itself was something very, I found it very, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but writing about love at that point felt awkward.
Right.
Whenever I'm writing something, I feel like, especially for young adults, for children, I'm like, you've got a lot to focus on, So the parent in me is like, there's a lot of time for all this later. But then, when I think back to how this was when I was growing up, the constant confusion, that
Absolutely.
confusion, that angst, that not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring, especially for someone like me. So I was not like a regular teen. I had a lot of my life already decided by the time I turned 18. So, so for
Right.
me, there was that confusion of what's going to happen tomorrow, but I have a feeling I know what it is, and I'm not going to like it. So, so trying to deal with that and trying to make the best of the situation, and writing somehow, seemed for me to, I felt all my life that I was living this, boxed in life, written,
Mhm.
the script
Mhm.
which was written by everyone else except me.
Yes.
So when I
Yeah.
was writing romance, I think, when I try to bring in romance in my books, it's not like I'm encouraging youngsters to go around falling in love with people randomly. I'm just, trying to explore things which I couldn't explore as a teenager myself, but also
Right.
trying to exert some sort of agency over my own life, even through fiction.
Fantastic.
So, so love plays a, I think everyone enjoys love stories, even
Absolutely.
those who scoff at proper romances. I think there is a, I don't want to get into that, because that will just increase my BP if I talk about people who diss romances, So I think, they need to read more, and they'll know that, romances are not just about, they're not cliched stories of people falling in love. There is so much to unpack, especially romances today, which touch upon such important issues,
Absolutely.
about consent, about mental issues, about, dealing with I'm currently right now reading a new book by Tessa Bailey called
Mm-hmm.
Simply Yours. And the
Yeah.
hero has this, he has this, he's prone to panic attacks and he's very anxious. And the way he deals with it is by making schedules and plans and lists. And the heroine is the complete opposite of that. So I think what romances allow you to do is to understand life and experience it, and also try to find some sort of I would say, to be able to express it through someone else's expression. I don't know if I made sense,
No, no,
but
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it was great that point that you made about you not growing up with enough agency in your life, and so how writing these stories of characters that have agency in different ways, of course, right? Is it's such a perfect answer. All I want to say is that my life was the exact opposite. I had the agency to do anything and everything that I wanted to, but it was equally confusing. It was equally bewildering being at that end of the spectrum. And that's why books, that's why we need books to help us navigate the complexities of life, with love being one of the emotions that comes into play there, really,
Too
right?
much choice is also, like, confusing. It's not an easy option. Having the
Not at all.
having the choice to do whatever you want is also not easy, as
Yes.
opposed to having everything
Decided
allotted to you.
for you. I can see Ritvika Roy, she says, I love Ananya and Raghu's love story in Mirror Mirror, and how he helps her, love food again. Now, in fact, that brings me to the next question. I mean, there are different shades of love in your books for tweens and teens. There's Asmara, who's crushing on her neighbor. There's Farida, who reconnects with a love of long ago. And there is Ananya, who's angry with her bestie Raghu, but and learns self love and to love him back again by various things that So, what does it take to really write these different shades of love, Andalib? And how I mean, is it how do you sort of imagine these characters and situations and circumstances, because not just in these books, more than just biryani, which is for women, doing crochet basically, right,
No,
along
not
with
crochet. That's the sum
this
of
is
all my parts.
oh, sorry,
More
that's
than
some of
just
all my
biryani is
parts,
about
sorry.
food. Yeah.
More than just biryanis at the wedding, basically, right? It's a wedding story. You're right. Some of all my parts where four ladies talk about their lives while they crochet with one other person, essentially, right? How do you what does it take to present love in all its colors?
I think it comes also from reading books and seeing characters and not seeing enough of the characters that I want to see. So
Hmm.
if I mean, I don't say that I read only romances. I read all kinds of books. But when I was reading romances, and I would come across things which you know. See, romance novels get a bad rep for a certain reason. Some of the stories are cliched, and some of them are, the typical, the guy is a dashing hero, the girl is a damsel in distress.
That's
So all these things, which used to irritate me. And I used to think that if I write, I'm not going to write like this, or I would at least try not to write something like this. So I think that evolution also happens, as you keep writing. And showing love in all its forms is not something I do consciously. See, the whole while we talk about all this, the writing of the romance writing world is a
hmm.
very it's very competitive because
Oh, yeah,
everyone is
really.
writing romances,
Hmm.
especially in the independent publishing sphere.
Hmm.
Romance is the highest selling genre.
Yeah.
It's very competitive, and it's also very tropey, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there are certain tropes like love at first sight, or second chance, or those kind of things.
Hmm.
So you kind of get, I try not to get too caught in that,
Hmm.
while at the same time making those tropes accessible to the reader so they know what to expect when
Hmm.
they're reading. So those kind of things are like, so this is not such a conscious decision. I
Hmm.
think more than how this happens, it all depends on the sort of characters that my people are, you know. So how would that character react to a certain situation? So I think it's more to do with the characterization of the people
Hmm.
more than like with Ananya, you know,
Right.
and her shutting out
From
Raghu.
Mirror, Mirror. Yeah.
Yes, shutting out Raghu completely because he witnessed her humiliation, and then not reaching out to him, cutting him out of her life, and then having to face him again after all these years in a different situation. So, you know, it's the stories, the love stories kind of evolve based on what sort of characters they are, you know, what how would they react. Because for me, at the risk of sounding something, you know, I don't want to say anything you know, about my own mental situation, but these people are like real characters for me. They're like
That's
real people. um, my writer friends and I, Shilpa and Apeksha and I, three of us have a writing group. We
okay.
talk about our characters as if they're real people, because
Ah.
to us they are.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, so I think it's trying to find a story that's suitable for them, that's perfect for those characters.
So that was Andalip talking about, Mirror Mirror, which is a lovely story for young readers. I mean, it's about body image, but it's also about self love. It's also, got a dollop of romance. I did recommend Asmara's Summer. There's All Drama, No Queen, where there's Farida, who it's actually a wonderful romantic novel which we would recommend, again for 16, 17+ year olds. And the one that she was just talking about, who's the one that I got confused with, More Than Just Biryani, which is actually the first book of yours that I read. This is, of course, Sum of All My Parts, which is the story of four ladies sort of woven against the backdrop of crochet, of them getting together and learning how to crochet. And More Than Just Biryani was the first book of yours that I read, Andalib. And it's just lovely, the way you bring alive the food, in the book, which is biryani, of course, and weddings and people and relationships, which form the crux of how people engage and interact with each other. And what are the what are the flavors of those different interactions that you sort of bring alive so well in your books. So of course, one of the things that I know that happens, and I was saying this earlier in the show, as soon as parents or teachers and librarians are out of earshot, we will always have 8th grade plus kids coming and asking us if there are cracking good romances to read. I don't know what it is about us as adults that makes us feel squeamish to give. I mean, we do as Funky Rainbow, but we are like, we are books people who come into school, but most adults feel somewhat squeamish to give their children a good love story. I wonder if they think that the emotion is too complex, or if they feel that they are encouraging them to do things. But typically in India, ishq vishk pyar vyar main kya janu re is our attitude to love itself. So how do you combat that as a writer, especially when you write for teens and tweens? I mean, I'm sure there are lines that you need to draw for yourself when you're doing that, right? And yet you want to tell a realistic love story. So what do you do?
So it's not easy. You know, it's not easy. When I'm writing for adults, there's it's I would say it's definitely easier on a certain level, because you know that's what being an adult is also about. You know, it's part of being an adult. You grow up, you fall in love or not, you get
Mhm.
married or not. You know, it's part of life. But when you're writing for teens, for young adults who have their whole life ahead of them, and you don't want to you don't want them to be restricted to this one thing, but at the same time you have to acknowledge that it's an important part of their growing up. You know, you can't avoid it. It's there around them everywhere. Movies they watch, I mean, if you watch movies together, if you watch shows together, it's very it's like, you know, it's part of growing up. So
Absolutely.
so when I'm writing, I think, you know, that I definitely tone down on, you know, the intimacy or whatever, definitely.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I'm not, see, writing for young adults is very different abroad. So
That's true.
there is a lot more that they tackle, you know, which I don't think Indian parents are ready for. So,
Parents, yes.
so I mean, I'm a parent myself, and
That's true.
um, I'm perfectly okay if my kids are reading it, reading something which, I don't think there is anything that I feel that they shouldn't read. I think reading books which talk about love and all that makes that emotion accessible to the people who are reading it, makes them, uh, I don't think it's like it idealizes it or something.
Hmm.
It depends on the books you're reading also.
Of course, of
I'm not
course.
saying that all books are perfect and everyone should read everything over there, but there are some books which I think help them understand what they're going through and put it in a language, make that I think that's the problem that a lot of young adults and teens suffer from, is not being able to, not having that language, that vocabulary to express what they're feeling.
Absolutely.
And when they read this in a book and they're able to relate to it, I think, I don't know anything about whether it pushes them to do something, but I think it's great for their mental health, because
Absolutely.
when they see something working out for a fictional character, it gives them hope. And what more do you need than hope?
Mm,
So
absolutely, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. It kind of really helps build empathy. It helps you, and they say this. Research has said it. We were speaking to a school counselor at one point, and I remember she said that reading romance sort of helps young readers, young and older readers, like let's say, address and perhaps even minimally transform their lives in some ways. And that's pretty much what you're saying. I mean, we're not saying that by reading a book of romance you're instantly looking to find the love of your life or any such thing, right? But there is a certain transformative power, there is a certain power which she says that that helps them navigate their lives better. And that's exactly what you're saying here at the moment, really, right? Of course, that great question, and somehow I've had this in my head always: the secret life of a romance writer. Come on, Andali, out with
it's going to be a secret only.
what
Because
happens on a bazaar doesn't stay in the bazaar, really. Like, right? I mean,
no,
in
no,
our
there's no
heads.
secret. There's no secret. But, I mean, it's mostly to do with a lot of reading, and books is not much of a secret. And um,
Yeah.
rather, I think what you were talking about earlier, I also wanted to add something to that. Is that psychologically speaking, also romance novels, I'm not talking about love stories in general, like,
Yes.
not talking about love stories like The Notebook, or,
Yeah.
like Jojo Moyes, Me
Yeah.
Before You, and all that. So
Yeah.
those are love stories, but they're not romances in the sense
Hmm.
that they don't technically have a happily ever after. Now,
Correct.
a romance has this happily ever after sort of as a given, you know. So when you
Hmm.
pick up that book, and no matter what your characters are going through, you start to identify with them, or you empathize with them, or you feel for them, and you're like, oh God, are these people really going to mess up this, whatever this is?
Hmm.
But at the back of your mind, you know that this is a romance and things will work out. So
Hmm.
that, I think for people who do, I'm not saying for people who necessarily who suffer from anxiety, but I
Hmm.
think it, for people who just I mean, the world is really a terrible place right now.
It
So
is.
reading a romance is kind of putting yourself in a place where you know that whatever is happening, the world may be burning outside, but maybe for these people something is working out, and that gives you that sort of psychological boost. It kind of
Hmm.
gives you a little bit of a kick,
Hmm.
which is definitely, I would say, it's that serotonin boost or whatever, it makes you feel good.
Hmm.
So that is one of the reasons why I pick up romances, because I know that there's going to be a happily ever after at the end of it.
Hmm.
And so much of our lives, there's no ever after as such. There's a continuation. So, but when you read it, you're like, okay, someone, something's worked out, so that's okay, I feel good for them. So
No, very, very well said, really. That's true. I mean, that too, when I do remember, growing up, let's say in my early 20s, somehow this whole thing of, characters who had a lot of angst appealed a lot to me, like a true literature student, like, right, existentialism and this and that. And I remember once a friend of mine saying, lighten up, boss, read a good romance, and flung Eric Segal's love story at me, essentially, right? And um you just felt so refreshed. I mean, it didn't have a happy ending. We already know that, from the first line of the story, we know that one of the partners, one of the people in the story is not going to be there at the end of it, essentially, right? But there's something just so wonderful to immerse yourself in somebody else's in somebody else's life and relationships, which then helps you navigate yours a lot better and a lot more clearly, right? Of course, you're not telling us secret lives of romance writers. Come on, give us give us like one chatpata piece of it. It doesn't have to be from your life, like, right? Tell us about something. I mean, was there something in your which you actually said in your first response itself, the fact that you didn't have much agency growing up, and hence you like to see your characters have that, which is such a lovely takeaway from this conversation, Andaleep. But what was there something nice in your life? Crushes. Everybody had crushes, like, right, whether they were married or not
Of
married,
course,
like, right? So, uh,
but it's so it's a really strange thing to say, to admit this over here. One of the first people I had crushes on was my husband, and
ah,
so
lucky
and
man.
I was very young then, and I didn't know that I would eventually get married to him. So I just had a crush on him, and I was like, he was so he was this. Cool older. Okay, I know I would probably shock a lot of people when I say that he was my cousin, but
Okay.
yeah. So, he's just this cool older person, and we didn't see him much. So I didn't have a crush on him,
Ah,
and so and I wouldn't say that my relationship with him was something out of a fairy tale romance, because I think so much of real life is a lot. There's so much of reality which is very, which kind of bogs you down and all that.
absolutely.
So I think writing romance is also a form of escapism, or sort of, where you, but if reading romance is escapism, writing also is,
Ah,
because
lovely
I
point.
can decide what happens to whom, and so it puts me in the driver's seat. I think I like being in control of that. And
Lovely.
I think as a romance writer, back in college when I was a literature student too, and I don't, so we used to have these discussions about what we would do after college, and I didn't have anything to say, because I think by in my final year I was already married. So
Ah,
I didn't
okay.
have anything to say. I was that cliche, that married woman. So, I
Who
was
married her crush? Come on. There's nothing too bad about that,
So
really,
I got
right?
married, and I was attending college as a married woman, and I was quite embarrassed about it initially, but then I was like, I'm just going to own this. So that
Yes.
final year, I said, I don't care. Let people say what they want. Let them say, Are that's that girl who got married. So what? So I think that kind of formed that last year of my college. So we used to have these discussions, and I got sidetracked. So I think someone said something about wanting to be a romance writer,
Hmm.
and another girl said, but what sort of experience would you need for that? So everyone started giggling at that. So, but then, one of the things that kind of strikes me is that when you're a romance writer, people have these assumptions about you. I would like to say, when you're reading a book, don't imagine me writing it. Just think of some
That's right.
random writer. Don't think, how did she write all this? Don't have to think that. But at the same time, having said that, so does that mean that someone who's written crime fiction has committed that crime?
Yeah,
As someone,
absolutely.
they don't have to go
Yeah.
through it. I think humans are perfectly capable of empathizing and writing something which they don't have, which they may not have experienced to that extent. So, the
Right.
same goes for romance writers, and that's all I'm saying.
Lovely, lovely. I will re-listen to this bit of it again once the show is done. I mean, while you were talking about your crush, it's just such a giddy feeling to hear someone talk about it, and such a fantastic point. How come we don't think of crime writers? I mean, I'm compulsively read crime fiction, and I
Me
never
too.
think about the writers of the. I mean, except for so and so is my favorite or so and so is not my favorite.
Yeah.
But when you're reading a great romance, like you're like, okay, what kind of a life is that person having? Like, right, but we're almost out of time. Andalit, it's been lovely chatting with you. But I want to, before signing off, ask you for some of your favorite romance writers and romance books, because we really hosted we did this show because we want parents, we want teachers, and we want librarians to be able to recommend nice books for young people growing up, really, right? So some of
Okay.
your recommendations would
Yeah.
be awesome. Yeah.
So I had a little bit of time to think about this so that I'm
Mhm.
not caught off guard. So I would definitely say I love Marian Keyes. So she
Okay.
doesn't write your typical romances, and it's not, but then her publishers always bring out her books as, with these chicklet sort of covers with those pastels
Ah.
and those heels and all that. But she writes about such deep issues along with love. And I love her work, I really love her work. Recent
Mm-hmm.
books, not so much for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really enjoy the last one that I read.
Okay.
Then there is Sally Thorne, who wrote The
Right.
Hating Game. And
Right.
then there is Helen Huang, who wrote The Kiss Quotient.
Okay.
And it's a lovely book, in the sense it's definitely for 18 plus.
Okay.
In among Indian authors, I love Anuja. I really
Yes.
like her books. And my favorite Indian romance writers would be my friends Shilpa
Ah.
and Apeksha.
Who,
So
Shilpa
Apeksha,
Rao, is it?
no, Shilpa Suraj. Shilpa
Okay.
Suraj
Okay.
and
I have to check
Apeksha
it.
Rao. Apeksha Rao.
Apeksha,
So
I know, because she's
Apeksha,
done
yes.
children's books as well.
So
Yeah. Hmm.
so Apeksha writes under a pseudonym,
Ah.
Alicia K.
Oh,
And
I have to make a note of that. Hmm.
interestingly, she won the Pen to Publish our competition in 2021 that
Mm-hmm.
Amazon conducted.
Uh-huh.
So both of these, so the three of us are like, we like to think of ourselves as the romance triumvirate or something.
Ah, wow, 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 wow.
Yeah,
More
right.
power
All
to
these,
this.
stories about these empowered women, and really, what do I say? Men who are feminist, and
Yeah.
who don't block the woman from growing, or kind of are there to help her find herself and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Among other Indian writers, Milan Vora. She's
Ah,
the
yeah, that's
first
right.
Mills and Boon writer in
Mm-hmm.
India.
Mm-hmm.
And she's written something. She's written a couple of books also, recently, which was published, I think, 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
So called Our Song.
Okay. Okay.
And I think, yeah. So that's the thing. It's very there aren't that many romance
True.
writers in India.
True.
There are a lot in the independent world. In the independent world of publishing, I haven't
Mm-hmm.
read that many, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the ones I've read, and definitely. So in fact, Shilpa, Apeksha, and I have brought out a series called the Bad Girl series. I'm using every opportunity to
Plug those. But we're going to read them. I haven't read Shilpa at all. Apeksha, I've read her children's books, so not read the pseudonym. I'm going to surely be asking you for a list.
they're unfortunately they're only available on the Kindle,
Ah,
only as ebooks, because we can't, in India, we're not able to publish paperbacks yet on
that's right.
Amazon.
That's
So
right. No, but those are some fabulous recommendations. I wondered if you were a Georgette Heyer fan. I mean, I grew up
no, I
one
haven't.
generation before you, like, right? So I was such a
Not
huge
so much.
Georgette Heyer fan, because just like you said, feisty women in those books falling in love with men who sometimes, who are feminists themselves in some books, but also who learn that,
Yeah.
women, will get their way eventually, like, right? So some lovely, lovely, romances and recommendations there. Andaleep, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
People,
you.
for all of you watching, there's the Jasmine Villa series that is just hit. It's all up
It's
on.
releasing actually this month,
Okay.
and I think it should be reaching bookstores in a few days.
Okay,
I
it's
haven't got
already
my
reached.
copies yet, so I'm waiting to see
Look at
that.
that, Andaleep. I know she said that yesterday, but it's up on Funky Rainbow, definitely. One Way to Love, Loving You Twice, and Three Times Lucky. Wonderful books from the Jasmine Villa series, which many of you will enjoy, and a whole host of other books as well. Andaleep's Mirror Mirror, Asmara's Summer, All Drama, No Queen, the sum of all my parts. I'm just going to show it all up to you once so you know that we're well stocked on romances at Funky Rainbow, more than just biryani and a sweet deal. These are all of Andaleep's titles. Meant for children of varying groups. I mean, we can start with Asmara being even for 11, 12-year olds and then going up progressively. So do consider picking up these books and enjoying a fantastic romance. Thank you for joining us today, Andaleep. What a
Thank
pleasure it was chatting with
Thank you
you.
so much. I enjoyed it. I hope that people, stop looking at romance with such a jaundiced eye and, pick up some of our books. So,
Thank you so much. And I'm going to thank all the people who joined us as well. There's just a mountain of people who were up here who were watching the show on Instagram. And I'm going to just say thank you to all of you: Shruti Sri Raghunath, Tara Veera Raghavan, Ramendra Kumar, Aditi, Nitin Malik, Ritvika Roy, Bookmarked, Sujita Selvakumar, Red Eye Chapters, Preeti Ajit, Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj, Maya Ashwini, Narayan Swami, The Bookish, Purna, String a Story, Swati Vinayak, Amrita Talwar, D&D Publications, Sheikh, Apurva Gupta, Tanvi Fatima, Srinidhi Kashyap, Dinesh, Shilpa Suraj, Athena Books, Salma Ansari, Manasi, Books Addict, Colorful Life, My Lily Pond, Photo Bee, Name Field, Azan, and I think that's Andaleep's son. How lovely. Zeenat Kausar, Mahesh Barot, Arfana Oshin, Preeti Kaushik, Chandu, and Najib Fatima. Thank you for all of for joining us on the show, showing us so much book love, and for just believing in Shudh Desi romances. It is Valentine's week, folks, and let's just believe that all we need is love, and all we need is books of love as well. We'll see you next week with another bazaar. Till then, stay tuned and do check out our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Bye bye and happy reading.